The swinging 60s were also a time of deep unrest in the United States, with growing tensions over the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Avedon may be better known for his fashion photography, but his portraiture and reportage work ran parallel to the fashion. Richard Avedon and high school friend and writer James Baldwin collaborated on the book Nothing Personal, a snapshot of American culture in the 1960s. It featured civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., William Casby, one of the last living Americans born into slavery, as well as the commander of the American Nazi Party. The photos were beautiful, arresting, often disturbing, but they reflected the America outside the glossy pages of the fashion magazines. One of Avedon's skills as a portrait photographer came in part from his use of the camera as a weapon, not a mirror to reflect back what the sitter wanted to show.
When I do a portrait, I have many choices to be completely subjective, balance subjectivity with objectivity, or completely objective.
Even from his earliest days, he was not one to shy away from a conflict, as is seen in this unpublished photograph of Coco Chanel in 1948, which she banned Harper's Bazaar from publishing. Coco Chanel attempted to seize control from her Jewish business partners by arguing to German officials that Les Parfums Chanel were Jewish property and that they should be turned over to her, but she was outsmarted by the Wertheimer family, who had preemptively given their stake in the company to a Christian friend of theirs. With the fall of the Nazi occupation, Coco Chanel, also known as Nazi Agent 7124, avoided jail time for treason and owed taxes by giving full control to the Wertheimer family. Avedon would continue to work with the brand for decades, including shooting their fragrance campaigns for Chanel No. 5. Coco Chanel was not the only Nazi sympathizer to complain about their portrait by Avedon.
There are times when it's necessary to trick a sitter into what you want, but never for the sake of the trick. I would go every night to the casino in Nice, and I watched them. I watched the way she was with him, the way he was with her, the way they were with people. I wanted to bring out the loss of humanity in them, not the meanness. And there was a lot of meanness and a lot of narcissism. So that I knew exactly what I had to try to accomplish during the sitting. I photographed them in their hotel suite in New York, and they had their pug dogs, which they adored. And they had their Ladies' Home Journal cover faces on. They were posing royally, and nothing, not for a second, was anything that I'd observed when they were gambling presented to me. And I did a kind of, it's like living by your wits. I knew they loved their dogs. And I said, if I seem a little hesitant, a little disturbed, it's because my taxi ran over a dog. And both of their faces dropped because they love dogs a lot more than they love Jews.
Despite there often being a dissonance from how the sitter saw themselves and the captured image, Avedon took portraits of everyone from the political elite to the greatest artists of the 20th century.
To sit with Avedon and have him look at you is a fairly disconcerting experience because you realize that he's studying you. I don't know whether he's seeing inside you or not. I guess he would say he's not.
I think I'm some kind of a reader, I mean, I used to love handwriting analysis, but that's nothing compared to reading a face. I think if I had decided to go into the fortune-telling business, or whatever you call that, I probably would have been very good. What happens to me is that in work, I look for something in a face, and what I look for is contradiction, complexity, things that are contradictory and at the same time connected.
Movement is a common element in Avedon's photographs, so it is no surprise how strongly he was able to relate to musicians throughout his career. From the Beatles to Bob Dylan, Streisand to Sondheim, his portraits were as dynamic as those he captured.
I work out of a series of no's. No to distracting elements in a photograph. No to exquisite light. No to certain subject matter. Certain people are not people I can express myself through. No to props. All these no's force me into the yes. And I have no help I have a white background, I have the person I'm interested in, and the thing that happens between us. There was one time when the face was like an explosion. For years, it was this explosion. When an explosion happens, you don't know where it's going to fly, where it's going to go, where the teeth are going to be, where the eye is going to be, what the contradictions are going to be within the face. Is this the laugh cynical? Is it ironic? Is it pain? Is it a scream? Is it all this concerned me. It didn't concern me, just overtook me. And they were all facets of my feelings at that time, those years, that month, that day. Then later, very quiet, just very quiet. Everything needed to be very quiet, very uncomposed, very unexplosive.